You hooligans doing today?
Good. How about you?
This looks like the Boise Mafia sitting here. Well, we appreciate you coming out on a rainy day. Some of you have traveled a little ways, and looking at my list, I've still got some that are traveling farther than that, so there'll probably be a few latecomers. But we appreciate you coming out. We appreciate your stores, your owners, to allow you to come and receive this training. We did this on Tuesday in Pocatello, and it was really good. In fact, those people wouldn't leave my people alone because of some of the new stuff that's being shown, and we're going to treat you to that today too. So with that said, we're just going to get started. First on the agenda is VPG. And for new people, VPG stands for Voluntary Purchasing Group, and that's Fertilome, High Yield, Natural Guard. And every store here carries that. So this is Daniel, and he'll be our main presenter. We have a VPG guy back there that after this is done, we're going to turn it over to the police department just to make sure everybody's good here, okay? So you're on.
Excellent, excellent. Like Robert said, good morning, guys. Thank you very much for being here. My name is Daniel Schmino. I am your VPG sales rep. That's Fertilome, High Yield, and Natural Guard. I know you guys carry our products, but who in here is familiar with our product line? Show of hands. All right, fantastic. So, for those of you who are not familiar with our product line, who can tell them what makes VPG different? What makes Fertilome and High Yield and Natural Guard different from most other products in your store? Yes?
It's not in box stores.
It's not in box stores, absolutely. Guys, we will never sell to anybody who is publicly traded. That is huge. We are trying to get you as many return customers as possible. If you have a customer come in and they've been fighting a weed for 3, 4, 5 years and they can't get rid of it, and you tell them, oh, you know, this is a difficult weed, it drops a lot of seed, this is the product you need to use, you sell them a bottle of Weed-Free Zone. And months later, they're in another store. They're in Walmart picking up a loaf of bread. They're not going to be able to find a bottle of Weed-Free Zone. They're going to have to come back to you to buy that. And hopefully when they come back to buy that, they're not going to just buy one of our products. They're going to buy a hanging basket. They're going to buy some tomato plants. They're going to buy a garden hose. They're going to buy something else. It's all about getting those repeat customers back in. So you'll never find our product line in a Lowe's, Home Depot, Walmart, Tractor Supply, you name it. Independents only. All right, that has been true to VPG for 50 years now. So, big thing that sets us apart. Another thing that we're going to do, we've got a really good co-op program. Everybody in here has got co-op dollars available to them. Everything that you purchase from us goes into co-op advertising fund. That's 6% of everything you purchase. That way you can advertise in the newspaper, radio. A lot of people are going to Facebook. Boy, those co-op dollars go really far on Facebook. And a little bit later, John and I are going to talk to you guys about another thing that we're co-oping. It's a kiosk. You can do it digital as well, but it's a kiosk that will help pay for, and it's going to recommend products. A customer comes in and they've got issues with aphids, and it's going to bring up every product that you've got on your shelf that's got aphids on the list. So really, really helpful. Great tool for even a staff member that already knows the product line really well. It just makes sure you and the customer are on the same page. So we'll talk to you guys about that in a bit. All right, you've got a lot of information right in front of you. I want you to find the folder that I've got that's got some sheets inside of it. It's going to look like this. And that's going to have an outline of what I'm going to talk about here in a minute. You've also got a brand new 2020 catalog. Guys, that catalog is fantastic. It's got all of our products in it. It's got common dilution rates, great reference guide. There is no pricing information in there. If you leave that on your chemical aisle and a customer starts going through it, the only thing they're going to find in there is my telephone number. So please use that. We put a lot of time and effort into that catalog. It's very useful. I always kept one close to all my chemicals. I also kept one next to my phone in my office, so that way if I answer the phone and somebody wants to know the dilution rate of Kilzol, I could tell them right there without having to walk out to the chemical aisle to do it. So please hold on to that. Like I said, there's no information in there that you wouldn't want a customer to to get a hold of. So really, really useful. All right, so outline of my talk. I want you guys to imagine, well, first off, let's pretend like we don't run a garden center. Let's pretend like we run a pet store. And I just bought a puppy. And I get home with that puppy, and I'm starting to realize all the different things that I should have purchased whenever I picked up that puppy. If I don't have a puppy bed, if I don't have a dog bowl, if I don't have a collar, if I don't have a little name tag, I need to obviously go home with some puppy food that day. That's probably the first thing that I'm going to need right away. Think about that with your plants. If I'm buying a hanging basket and it's big and beautiful and I go home with nothing and all I'm doing is watering it and weeks go by and I don't have as many flowers and it doesn't look as lively as it did in your garden center, I'm not going to be as happy with it. You want to make sure that I'm extremely happy with it, so I come back to you and I buy more things and hey, I'm a really successful gardener and that's going to get me to buy more things. But if it's droopy and not looking great, I'm kind of discouraged and I'm not going to purchase as many things. So I want you guys to think about this. When you're selling somebody, these extra items, and I know sometimes people feel like tie-in sales are a nasty thing. You're not just selling them these products just to sell it to them. You're selling them success. You want them to go home and you want that hanging basket to look like the day they bought it. You want, their tomato plant to have all the fruit on it and everything be beautiful. So you're really trying to make them as successful as possible. And that's hopefully what sets you apart from your competition, from a Lowe's or a Home Depot. You want them, hey, every time I go into such and such garden center, everything looks great. I'll have a lot of success. So I want you guys to imagine that I'm a shopper in your garden center, and you don't know me from anybody. You don't know if I've been gardening for 5 years, 10 years, or this is the first plant I'm putting in the ground. All right, and I'm walking up to your register. Who's good with pricing? Who's a cashier that could tell me how much some 6 packs of tomatoes cost? How much? So if I've got 2 6-packs of tomatoes in my hand, how much are you going to make off of me?
Probably about
$6. Absolutely, $6. All right. Every time you guys name a product, I'm going to put $1 on this cage. All right. And let's see how many dollars we can get on here, because when we're done, I'm going to give away all the money that you guys come up with. So you start telling me all the products. So I'm walking up to the register, and I've got 2 6-packs of tomatoes. What's something else I need to go home with that day to be successful?
fertilizer.
Some fertilizer, absolutely. Do you have one that you would recommend? If you're picking out a fertilizer for a tomato plant and you've got those 3 numbers on the front of the bag, what's a number I really want to focus on to make sure I get good blooms and fruit? The middle number, that's right. Anybody know what that number stands for? Phosphorus, you got it. So what's a good fertilizer that's going to have a high phosphorus? I'll even give you the number that's on it. It's a 58.
Listen, these people, most of them should know the answers to all these questions.
You're letting Robert down, guys. Come on.
You're spanked if you don't answer this stuff.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about that in just a bit. What you got, Charlie? Blooming and rooting. Guys, that's a water soluble. That's a 958-8. I love that fertilizer for my vegetables. It's going to pump out a lot of blooms. It's going to give me a nice, healthy root system. What are those blooms going to turn into? Tomatoes. They're going to turn into tomatoes, absolutely. And I'm going to be all excited when I've got all this fruit popping up on my tomato plant. All right, so we've got a good water-soluble fertilizer. What else do you want to see me go home with?
Potting soil.
Some potting soil. And you can start that conversation with me. Hey, where are you planting this? Oh, I've got an apartment. I don't have a lot of room. I'm going to put it in a little container. All right, so you're going to sell me a potting soil that's going to be designed for containers. Or maybe I have a ½ acre and I'm going to make a big, I'm going really ambitious. I'm going to have a 20 by 20 vegetable garden. You're going to sell me a different soil to go in the ground. So it starts that conversation of where's it going? Hopefully you'll start to find out, has this person done this before? Do they have things at home? What's something else that if I've never gardened before that I might not have?
Tools.
Tools, absolutely. I'm going to need like a little hand trowel or something. What else? It's kind of like a tool that I'm going to need almost right away to make sure that plant survives. Some way to water it, right? And if I'm going to be doing it in a container on my back patio, I might not need a garden hose. I might just need a watering can. But if my vegetable garden's way in my backyard, I'm going to need, a garden hose to get out there. Guys, if you don't sell them these things and they get home and they realize they need it, unless they live right next door to your shop, they're probably going to go somewhere else to pick it up. You've got one big opportunity to say, let's make sure you leave the door with everything you need to be successful. All right? What's something else? What's a common problem, and somebody said it just a moment ago, what's a common problem that almost every blossom in... In fact, guys, when we set this up, the gentleman that were helping us with the room, the guy walked over and said, oh man, I had this problem on my tomatoes. I mean, he saw that picture, and of course, right away, Robert's like, this is what you need, this is what you got to do. And educate them on it. Guys, blossom end rot is not just a lack of calcium in the soil, it's a lack of calcium in the plant. If I'm dying of thirst and you put a bottle of water high up on a shelf and I can't reach it, it's not going to do me any good. You know, you'll have a lot of times customers will say, oh, I'm going to put some eggshells down on the ground. You know, fantastic. When those eggshells break down in 7 years and the plant can get access to that calcium, wonderful, you're going to do great. But at the time of planting, that is not going to be available to the plant. So first application of calcium nitrate, help prevent blossom end rot. You know, that's going to help both types of customers. If you've never gardened before, hey guys, this is the most common issue people have with tomato plants. If I've never gardened before and I lose half of my tomatoes to blossom end rot, I'm going to be pretty discouraged. But if I've been gardening for 10 years and every year I have this problem and you guys sell me a product and it stops it, but you say, hey, guess what? You can prevent it with a bag that, less than $10 and you're probably going to have it's going to last you multiple seasons. You can prevent that problem from ever even happening. You're going to be that hero. All right? That's what's going to set you apart. Yes?
You know, if the people come in and buy a tomato, they have blossom end rot, or it doesn't grow well, or I don't care what it is, and they're just not happy with it, whose fault is it?
Yours.
That's right.
From their perspective,
you sold me a
sold them
product that
crappy
didn't work.
tomatoes.
Yep.
Isn't that right?
Yep.
If they're successful with those, and by the end of the season, they're so sick of picking tomatoes and making salsa and they can't even give them all away. Whose fault is that?
That's there. They get all the credit.
It's their fault, not
That's
yours.
Right. But hopefully, every time I buy something from you, every time my tomato plants look great, my hanging basket looks great, I don't want them to hesitate. When they think of the outdoors or they need to pick something up, I want them to come into your shop. All right? Yes?
Question. What's the difference between the calcium in a bag and the calcium that the spray is?
Perfect. We will
Good
talk about
question.
that in just a bit. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Good
that's
question.
excellent. All right. So anything else that you'd like to see me go home with?
Gloves.
Gardening gloves. That's actually the exact one I had in my head. Guys, there's one more.
Did you hear that, Wendy?
There's one more that's staring you guys in the face right now. Tomato cage. Thank you very much. All right. Fantastic. All right. So I came in, got my tomato plants. You told me all the things I needed, or you had a nice display of, hey, if you're buying tomatoes, this is everything you need. And I can stand there and look at it and say, okay, I have this and I don't have that. I bought my blooming and rooting. I've got tons of blooms on my tomato plants, but unfortunately, they're not turning to fruit. What would you sell me? It's a spray. It's ready to use. It's right behind me. Anybody know what it is or remember? Tomato and pepper set. Absolutely. All right, guys, this is a really cool product. Tomato and pepper set is going to force that plant to put out a fruit without it actually having to be pollinated by the wind or yourself or bees or whatnot. Where do you think you spray that product?
On the blossoms.
On the blossoms, on the back of the blossom is key. If they spray it on the entire plant, wonderful. You're going to sell more tomato and pepper set. I'm going to sell more tomato and pepper set. We're going to be real happy. But if they don't get it on the back of the blossom, and what's the goal here, guys? We want to make them successful, right? If they don't get it on the back of that blossom, it's not going to work. All right? So you want to make sure they focus that on the back of the blossom. So everything's going great. My fruit's roughly about the size of a quarter. What would you tell me to do now? What should I do whenever my fruit's about the size of a quarter? Something we did in the first step, and what was that?
Fertilize again.
We want to fertilize again. And I've been using blooming and rooting, and everything's been going really great. But guys, I think of blooming and rooting as like a 5-hour energy. It's going to get me through the day. It's going to get a job done. It's going to get me a bunch of blossoms on there. It's going to get me a nice, healthy root system. But I can't survive on 5-hour energy. I need a good, well-balanced meal. So what's something that you could put down that's going to be a good, well-balanced meal?
I like the organic.
Absolutely. Guys, if you haven't tried this, these are fantastic. I switched all of my synthetic fertilizers to the organic through, I think it's been 3 years now. I haven't hesitated. I've been getting great results. I'm really, really pleased with that product. Absolutely.